because this is for you and a lot of people are on PCs versus the Mac, one of the things I always tell everybody is there's a couple of different options on Evernote. There's evernote.com, which I will show you guys because everybody works on different formats. I have Evernote as an app on my Mac, so that's what you're seeing. So the layouts look different on all of the different screens depending on what you're comfortable with. There is a software download for PCs, but I found a lot of my PC users are not using it. They are using the evernote.com. So I'm going to show you like different screens of where to find things on different screens because that's where I find I lose people and they get frustrated. So I'm going to show different screens, my Mac, evernote.com, and then I'm going to show it on my iPad, and then I'm going to show you how to create everything. And this is going to be very, very simple. It's not advanced. Ask any questions that you may have, any questions that you think an agent would have or a broker owner would have. And then from there, we will, and if you don't know what the questions now and afterwards, when you get the recording, you can always Facebook me or email me, and then I will definitely answer those questions. Now, please know I'm not an Evernote guru. Do work with one of the developers at Evernote, but I'm using it as a practical in my daily life, and that's kind of where I approach Evernote is I hated note-taking, and I had a really hard time transitioning from writing in a spiral notebook to typing notes. And that was a huge transition going paperless for me because I liked checking off my to-do list. I liked writing notes in there. I have now become so addicted to Evernote that I don't even carry a pen around. It's kind of funny. I just don't because I take all my notes in here. So I'm not saying that that's what you have to do, but I'm saying start maybe a transition one step at a time. The next set of webinars that will be out will be how to use Evernote broken down with sellers and broken down with buyers. And then I do an advanced webinar on Evernote, like all the advanced features. They just came out with a whole new release too. And it just depends if you're a premium version or not. So this is definitely being recorded. So, and Steve is here with us today, and I'm going to challenge Steve and make him ask me some questions so that we make sure that we cover some things for you guys. Steve, how much are you using Evernote already?
Well, since I'm working for an association, not using it as much as I want to. I just started using it before I went and left my private practice into the association a few years ago. It was basically just for list sharing with an intern and an assistant. Not as much as organizing my life, but as more sharing.
Okay, so one of the things that Steve brought up was he's using it to share notebooks. And we'll talk about sharing notebooks, which is really a great tool, especially if you have assistants or if you have a staff that you're working with, if you have a team member that you work with, if you have a working partner that you work with. Those are all great tools to use with the sharing notebooks. I share notebooks with people if I'm just working on a project with somebody. I have one that you'll see over here on my screen. This is the one that is my Evernote webinar guide, and we're sharing a notebook. So I have one for my business wife in Austin. So we share notebooks. But this is a fundamental class. So the question becomes is what is a notebook and how do I create notes? And then how do I incorporate it in my business? That's what I want to cover today. And then the next sessions we'll talk about now how do I incorporate it when I go out on a listing appointment or working with a seller? How do I incorporate it into my working with buyers? I have one webinar that just is kind of like how do I use Evernote in my everyday life, whether it's real estate, whether it's just personal life. That one has not gotten a lot of action and needs. So if that happens, then I definitely will do that. So let's talk about first creating a notebook. And my way of doing spiral notebooks is I used to have color codes. I would have a black spiral notebook for my sellers. I'd have normally a red one or blue one for my buyers. And then I'd have a green one for prospects for green for money. So I would carry around these 5 subject spiral notebooks everywhere, which became very cumbersome. and I would accidentally lose them or leave them somewhere. And my life was in chaos if I did not have it with me. I mean, it was that chaotic for me. So when I transitioned to Evernote, and guys, believe me, I still have boxes of this spiral notebooks in my attic. So I get where all of y'all are going with having this writing things down. When I started transitioning to Evernote, my transition was easier just taking everyday notes. And just so if somebody called me on a listing, I would make a note in here. If somebody wanted some about a lease, and so I would make a note in here, prospecting. So I was starting, or if somebody gave me a referral, that's kind of how I started using it. Is or if somebody was countering on a offer, that's how I started using it, is trying to break away from the spiral notebook and writing things down. Then I started realizing the power behind it. So my way of organizing myself may not be your way, but this is what I do. Every time I get a new client. Now, when I say client, they may not be under contract yet, but it's a prospect that you know is probably going to do business with you. So I create a Dropbox folder for them. I create an email folder for them. And then in Evernote, I create a notebook for them. So, and normally the Evernote notebook probably comes before the Dropbox in the email folder, because I may have gotten an email from them and back and forth a couple emails, but until maybe we talk on the phone or have a Skype or a Google Hangout, I'm not really sure if we're going to pursue the relationship any further. So a lot of times I create the Evernote notebook pretty quickly. So, and I can do this a couple different ways. So I'm going to show you on my Mac, and then I'm going to show you on evernote.com. So the notebook normally for me is the client's name. If it is a seller, it is normally their property name. It's again up to you how you organize. That just seems to be how I work better. So again, totally up to you. So if I want to create a new notebook, so first of all, you need to be, this is again the Mac screen, and then I'll show you the .com, and then I'll show you on the iPad. A notebook to me is the heading, and then you put notes in underneath that notebook. So think of it as one spiral notebook for each client. So up here, I hit new notebook. So let's say this would be a good one. I have a new client. And again, guys, these are real clients. So I really appreciate you, keeping yourself, not stealing clients and violating the code. So a new client that, and it's actually a past client, but coming back to want to buy new. New client comes up here. So he's a buyer. If he was a seller, I would have named him the street address. Now, quickly, that's how you create a notebook. So if you'll see over here, again, new notebook. You can name it anything that you want. My first step that I have everyone do when they're doing Evernote, and that's normally I do a follow-up email for those that have attended the webinar, is see if you have created an FAQ notebook. An FAQ to me, and mine is still building, and I'm kind of now working on organizing it into FAQs for sellers, FAQ for buyers. So you can do it anyway. I just started basic at FAQs. So FAQs are frequently asked questions. Anything that you would have been, to me, anything that you talk about on the phone or email about more than once a week, those are FAQs. So they can be anything from what is the school district like? Where can I find stuff to do in the area? So then I would give them a link to a website. I would actually give them a link to meetup.com, which is a really fabulous tool that every real estate agent should know about. And as a matter of fact, I've been kind of lax on using it, so I need to get back into using it. But it's a great tool for especially the people that are moving and maybe you have a trailing spouse, but meetup.com allows them to meet with other social people in their area. Other FAQs may be what home warranty should I pick? And so then I have a list of the links to each home warranty company so they can research them. What are the utility companies? So I can hook those up. Those are what's the difference between appraised value, assessed value, and market value. Those may be another FAQ. So anything that you're saying over and over again, put them in FAQ. And then what I found is I said, when I started putting them in FAQs, then I started realizing, oop, that's a prospect question. That's actually a seller question. So I started reorganizing them. And I'll show you how to reorganize once you make a note. One of the things I found really quickly is once you have a notebook up, you'll see up here, it'll say new note. So let's say I wanted to create a new note for my client, James Durant. What happens a lot of times as agents, and I did this myself quite a few times, is I just clicked on this plus button. And if you look in Evernote on whatever screen you're on, the plus button will always normally be for you to take a new note or to create a new notebook. So just look for that. In the new note, what I stupidly did one time, actually a couple times, I'll be real honest, is I did new note and then I created the note. So when I created the note, you'll see over here, it'll say the notebook. Well, I'm doing it on my phone or my iPad and I'm not paying attention to that. And so I'm stupid about it. So I can quickly change it right then and there. But if I've already made the note, I'll show you how you can change it after you've made the note in the wrong notebook. Here are tags. So we're talking about creating a note. The cool thing about notes versus a spiral notebook is I used to write notes on counter offers and I'd have different pages on everything going and I'd have to flip through probably 5 to 10 pages to find a note I took. I would actually go back through past spiral notebooks remembering, oh my gosh, I had this conversation with somebody 3 months ago, and I would go back to that notebook 3 months ago in a spiral notebook, and it was just very tedious. The cool thing about Evernote is you can search your notes, and you can add tags to them. One of the things that I would highly recommend, and this is an advanced user thing, is start adding places to those. So let's talk about tags. So let's say this would be new buyer. This would be James Durant, acreage, new construction. So these are my tags. You can make it up of any way that you would potentially search. You don't have to do this. The cool thing about the Evernote, for those that blog, and this is again in an advanced session, the tags are important. So if you're going to do a post for a WordPress in Evernote, by having those tags built in, when you take it into Evernote, into WordPress, it's already tagged for you. So that makes things nice. Here is your title of the note. So when I say title of the note, you'll see down here, which is the bold version. If I'm on my iPad or my iPhone or a Droid in Evernote, normally it'll bring up my location. I have turned my location off on my Mac because when I was just traveling this past week, you can always add it on. So a lot of times, like when I was last week in GRI in Oklahoma, it came up GRI Oklahoma as the automatic subject line. You can always change that. Sometimes I just let the automatic title come in. So again, up to you. This one would be initial, let's say, initial email call with James about acreage. And as I'm on the phone with him, I would be taking notes in here. Again, the old way I would do it is handwrite them in the spiral notebook. For me, this is better because when he calls me, 2 days later and says, Amy, we've changed our mind, we want to do this, I don't have to go and flip back through the pages of the notebooks. I can just come into his note and change it. So he wants 2 to 5 acres to build on. No more investment. So I'm making my notes. And the cool thing about this is I can also do this by just copying and pasting from an email. So if a client's emailed me, I just can copy it in here. I have a lot of agents say, why would you copy an email into Evernote? And this is, I agree. I thought it was stupid at first until I realized I would be on the phone with a client and I was having to go back through multiple emails and search for multiple emails, meaning maybe they were still sitting in my inbox and I hadn't put them in their file folder yet, or I had already file foldered them. So I'm on the phone with them on speaker and I'm digging to where the last email they sent. You don't have to do this, but I find that anything important, I am starting to, in an email, starting to copy and paste into Evernote. So I just kind of have a trail of maybe what they're looking for, maybe showing instructions, maybe they're going to be out of town. So I just have a quick one area that I have to go to. Here is one quick Amy tip. If you are an Outlook user, it used to be called Evernote 4. I have not gotten it to work on my Outlook for Mac, but on my PC, it was fabulous. And it is now called Evernote 5. What that does is in your Outlook, it allows you, it becomes a little, it looks like an elephant and it's green, and it allows you to have an email open and then hit the little icon that's the elephant, and you can take that whole message into Evernote. So there's no copying and pasting. So it's, if you just Google, and it's really hard to find on the Evernote website. So if you just Google Evernote 4 or Evernote 5, see if that works for you guys. But that made my life a lot easier when I was starting to do this with copy and pasting emails versus, so unfortunately on my Mac, I still have to copy and paste. So this is just a quick note. This is also one thing I like about Evernote. You'll see over here, I can change font. If I don't like Arial, I can change that. If I need it bold, if I need something italicized, I can change the color. I do change colors. Here's a quick example. I had a client that I sold the house virtually to, never met the client in person, never saw the house. I was out of town, and she saw it through one of my showing agents. So when I came back in town, she had a whole list that she wanted me to look at the property. So what I did, I just copied the email into Evernote. So while I was at the property, it was really easy on my iPad. I just answered her questions by changing the font color. And so by each, she had about 20 different questions. So I just quickly answered them right by there on my Evernote. And then from there, I emailed it out. Why that was cool for me is I didn't have to go back through a sent message. I had it all in Evernote. So I had her original, you know, email, and I had all of my answers. So if she called me later, she's like, well, what did you mean by answer 6? And I'm sitting getting my nails done. I don't have to sort through email. I can just go to Evernote. Also over here, you can highlight. There's times that I've highlighted certain things. It just depends on what you like to do. And again, what works for you. This is left indent. This is middle. I honestly don't use this a lot, only when I'm making lists. Over here is where you can make bullet points. I will use bullet points when I'm creating FAQs for things to look for when you're buying a house. So dot, 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 or things if you're interviewing an agent. I would use the bullet points there. But in my typical just initial note taking, I wouldn't use them. The next one is to do a numbered list, which is kind of cool too. So maybe if you're giving them a list of all of the different things to get ready for the lender, or the steps that are involved with getting ready to buy a house, what I find is they're not always reading a whole long email. So maybe doing it this way would be better for you. Over here is also what's cool is you can create check boxes. I create a lot of checkbox lists. It's just my way of doing it. And so I have checklists that go back and forth between my business wife and myself. I also have check boxes when I give new agents lists of how to get started and how to convert their social media from one company to another when they join us. So I use those check boxes just because when I create a note to send to an agent, because I think in checkbox theme. That's just my personal thing. You can also create rows and columns. So again, this is something that can get really super involved. There's also an application called Skitch. It's Skitch, and it's integrated with Evernote. We talk about it more in the advanced webinar, but I want to just quickly talk about it. Is I could take a photo on my iPad or a screenshot of a website. So maybe I'm trying to tell an agent, and I'm going to pick on Steve, how to sign up for a class on Oklahoma Association of Realtors site. Or maybe I'm trying to have a board member log into the back end. Or maybe I'm trying to have an admin trying to log into the back office. I created a Skitch for screenshots for my agents when they get their license and they request us to be their sponsor. It's kind of tedious for my agents to find how to do that on the website. So I've created Sketch, and Sketch allows you to take a photo, allows you to take a snapshot of a webinar, allows you to take a lot of different things and write on top of it. And then you can bring it into Evernote. Again, advanced, but for you guys. Let me finish up with this screen and then I will stop for any questions. Over here is the recording. So I can record anything. I can say, I talked to James on the phone today, he really wants this. His wife wants this, And then when I'm done recording, it will then show up and I will save it. And then it shows inside the note. What's cool about using the recording, let's say I had a quick conversation or a client emailed me about, I had just one the other day. He emailed me about, hey, who are the best builders out there? Well, of course, that's a really tough question. So, and this was a client that is very hard to get a hold of on the phone. So I don't want to leave him a voicemail because he kind of gets irritated if I leave him voicemails and he will never listen to them. So what I did is I went into Evernote, recorded myself, and typed up links for the different builders for his area. And then I did a quick audio note for him. And so he thought that was really cool. And he says, thank you for not wasting my time. So the audio notes I've used in different ways. And it's been really great for me personally. Next over here is where you will take a snapshot. You can take it from your camera. Again, the snapshot is maybe I'm taking a photo of a listing. Maybe I'm taking a photo of an area. Maybe I'm taking a photo to send to a client. Like I do a lot of new construction. So I take photos of while the construction is going through on the property. So what I learned to do is I was just Dropboxing them. But certain clients I've started sharing notebooks with, and I've just, here's stage one, and just putting it in that. So I've been kind of adaptable per my clients. Next over here is where you can attach a document. And on the iPad, again, it looks a little different. And see if I found Evernote's a little slow today. Maybe it's just me being slow. It's a Monday. And if it doesn't come up, I'll show it on my screen. But the paperclip is just like an email attachment. It allows you to attach a photo, a document. So let's say I wanted to attach the tax record on their current property. So I would just double click on it and it would come open. Again, a little slow today. And when it would be inside the Evernote. So lots of cool things to start with on Evernote. Again, create a notebook. I tell agents, first of all, create a notebook that is just, and I apologize, I'm going to take this out of the screen shot for you guys, but start with FAQs or start with the first time you get a prospect lead. So, or you get a counter. So a couple different starting points that could happen for you is option one, create FAQs. So that way it's a time saver. Option two, take every listing that you currently have and create a listing notebook. Okay, and this is going to be a problem. Wow, this is just not going to let me go any further. And it just locked up. So let's see if we can do it from another screen. All right, so that is, and we are going to have to quit that. And I'll quit it on the screen because it was acting up. And one of the good things is because I work with one of the developers, I'll be able to report that as a bug to them. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and go to evernote.com and show you it's going to be a lot different. One of the things that you need to know about Evernote is if you do not have the premium version, it's cloud-based, but it does not sync until you get to a Wi-Fi. So let's say hypothetically, I'm flying and I have no Wi-Fi connection on the plane, but I have, oh my gosh, a whole list of ideas that I need to do, or I'm trying to organize to tell my assistant all of the step-by-step how to input a listing. Or like for Steve, maybe you want to organize a checklist for when you tell everybody for marketing campaigns that you're doing for each campaign. When you're doing that on a plane and you're on the Evernote app, it will not sync to all your other devices until it gets to a Wi-Fi or a cell signal to sync. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. So a lot of times agents get frustrated that they've put something in on their iPad and then they're immediately going to their iPhone and pulling it up. Well, if it hasn't had time to sync and you have not been on a wireless or a cell signal, it won't sync. So always give it time to sync. One of the new updates on Evernote is faster syncing capability. So this is evernote.com, and I'm going to go ahead and log in. And for you guys, so I want you to notice the difference between that version I just came from and the layout versus this. One quick Amy tip, I just found this out today. So if you're an Evernote premium user, that means that you have the opportunity to share notebooks. You can sync without a wireless connection. And now you'll be able to change your home screen. So I just want you guys to all know that that's an option for you guys. All right, so I'm going to ask Steve. I'm going to take a quick break and here ask Steve. Steve, I'm going to unmute you, Steve. And do you have any questions for me before I go to the evernote.com? Okay, no questions from Steve. So Steve, if you have a question, you can always put it in the question box down here. Again, what works for you. So I'm going to mute Steve back and let's go to back to evernote.com. Again, a very different look. So the shortcuts are up here, ones that I've kind of created quick, and you can create favorites of notes maybe you see all the time. One of the things that I'm going to joke with about is I started creating notebooks for recipes. I started seeing recipes on Facebook, on Pinterest. One of my girlfriends would send me a recipe. And so I started creating a recipe folder. Well, that was great, but just FYI, Evernote now actually has a app just for recipes. So I had already created these different ones in here with photos and all of that before Evernote came out with their recipe app. So that's an option for those that are want to use Evernote in a personal manner versus in a business manner. So also here is notebooks. So over here, again, different screen. I had a couple people in classes recently when I talked about Evernote got here and they did not know how to create a new notebook because all they were seeing was the new note. So over here on notebooks, you'll see a little drop down arrow. That's where you create the new notebook. So I just want you to notice where it's at. So remember I talked about, so I, again, create a new notebook, same setup, Amy test, whatever it may be. So you can, again, you'll see now it's showed up in the notebook, okay? So in Amy test, I'm in that notebook, I would create new note. And again, I would tag it, I would title it. Once I made my notes, whatever I did, you'll see over here where it says share. On the share, this is what's the beauty of Evernote, and that's why I talk about creating FAQs to start with, is I can share those quickly by an email. One of the ones I got so tired of doing was, I want to lease a house. Well, I got tired of telling them, do you understand what all is involved with leasing a house and all the money up front? So I created a lease, starting lease, and I've laid out all the monies and all of that. So then I can quickly just email it to a client, or if I'm on my iPad, I can just go into Evernote, copy it into a text message. So if I just get a text, so that's, to me, is I'm just creating templates, if you will. I personally rarely do Facebook or Twitter, but this is great if you're going to maybe just post. Maybe you drew something on Sketch, or maybe there's a Evernote web clipper, so I can grab something off the web, and maybe I want to send that out to Facebook and or Twitter to my client base. So again, this is not how I'm using Evernote right now, but again, definitely something you can do. Also over here is the info. One thing I didn't talk about on that other time. Remember I made the comment is, let's say this note was not supposed to be in here, and so Amy Test was not supposed to be in this notebook. I can then start changing it to a different location. So, and then I can also set latitude and longitude, which a lot of agents like. Also here, we didn't talk about it, is you can set a reminder. So on the reminder, I can go, oop, I need to do this. Maybe I have a checklist and then I need to do this on another day. Then I can do this and set a reminder for one other day. So for you guys. So I can do it in a week. I can set a time. Lots of different things that you can do on that. Unfortunately, on the reminder, it does not send an automatic email. Okay. Uh, um, uh, so, so just that's coming soon. Also, if this is a note I don't want, I can use the trash bucket over here. So again, this is a note I don't want. Um, um, so just FYI for you guys. Now I'm going to show it to you on my iPad. So I'm going to go over to my iPad and link it up with the screen. So Steve, before we go further, I want to make sure, Steve, do you have any questions for me? I'm going to unmute you. If Steve's still there, I want to make sure that he doesn't have any questions. No questions there? All right. All right. So I'm on my iPad screen, not on my Mac, and not on Evernote.com. And so I'm on my iPad. And so I'm going to go into Evernote. And I want you to look at it from the iPad screen. Totally different view. So I'm, again, showing these to you for a reason, because it gets kind of frustrating when you're on different views going, what is what? So on the iPad screen here, what happens a lot of times is if you've been in a note, you're here and you're like, what do I do? I just want to create a new notebook. So I tell everybody to go to the little elephant right here. That kind of gets you to the home base. And then from that, you'll be over here and you can then see your notes. You can see your notebooks. You can see your tags. Or the cool thing is right down here, this is a new add-on that you can type a quick note from the screen. So give you some ideas for you guys. So you can type a quick note here and for you guys. So on the note, so if I want to create a new notebook here, I just tap on notebooks here. And then at the top, this gets confusing, edit. And when I go to edit, you'll see over here it says new notebook. So that's where I would create the new notebook. Okay, so then I would hit done. Okay, so that gives you an idea of how to do it. So then you would hit back, and then you could again create notes. So if I want to create a note, I would just, remember I talked about the plus sign is right here. And so then you can add the plus and create a note. And then from here, note from Bonnie's Party Holiday Fest in Burbank. And maybe from this note, I was like, oops, wrong notebook. I just come here and tap on this, and then I can change the notebooks. So again, this is just basic things. Here's the cool thing from the iPad that I prefer. So when I'm out on a listing appointment or out with a buyer, I can say, yucky carpet, what's up with the hole in ceiling? And from there, I can also, and this is just me, I can come to the little attachment and go to camera and take a photo. Here's the hole in the ceiling, photo. And now it will be part of, by hitting the, will now be a part of the note. So that's the cool thing, is I can have it in there as well. I use the camera a ton on my iPad. I use Evernote more probably on my iPad or on my laptop versus my phone just for type, but I do use it for typing. And then I hit save. If you are like me and you are maybe not type as fast, so let's say I want to be on a listing appointment or with buyers and I'm trying to take notes and I can't type that fast. Down here is your magic button, which is the microphone. So if I am talking into the microphone, look up this property at Waxbury. I would, now you'll see that it converted it, didn't totally convert my way, but what I find by doing this is it does maybe speed up the process for you. Some people like to do shortcuts and still like to take notes the old-fashioned way, and I'm blanking on the name of it, shorthand, excuse me, shorthand. So I actually told an agent that you can create some of the shorthand messages in your settings on the keyboard, and then you can still use them. And actually, somebody just recently told me that there is a shorthand keyboard, and I have not verified that, so please don't take my word for that. But so again, and let's say this is one that's a favorite that I need to keep as a note forever. Up here, you'll see the little star. Then I can create that as a favorite. So it would now be part of my quick ways to find things. So I want to make sure that there's no questions out there for anybody that I have not covered. So again, I'm on my iPad and I'm going to the elephant. And here is, again, different things that you can do. Tags, places, again, you have to have your location based. So what's cool about places, this is just very fundamental, and then the advanced version we get to a little bit further, is the cool thing about places is you can see, oh yeah, I was in Conroe, Texas, making a note. I know I was in Conroe working with somebody or whatever it may be, and I can just search just by places. But again, you have to have your location settings on. So that's kind of a neat thing. Also, I talked about sharing notebooks. I would not pay for the version to share notebooks until you are ready to share. So here's one that I shared just so you guys can see. This is 30 Honeywell, and this is with one of my agents that I shared it with. She is newer to the business, had some questions that they were asking, or I was trying to help her with questions that they would probably ask it. So she sent me the information. I looked them up. I sent it to them, and then I gave her questions to ask when she was with them. So some different ideas for you guys. Okay. And then if you go down here, I have different shared notebooks, and you can see it's shared because there's people tied to it. And you can share any notebooks you want. And like mine, I have quite a few. Here's one that I talked about, checklists. So here's a checklist that I have set up. New agent set up. Who's doing what in our company? So we just change it. Here's another one I have. So as soon as an agent closes a deal, we send their clients a Yelp review. So again, I had the link already in there. I don't have to worry about it. I can do it mobily and not have to get back to my computer. I don't have to go to Yelp and find the link. It's all saved in here. So again, easier for me. Here's another checklist I have, is updating your current social profiles when you join and all the different places that you need to do. So again, different things. But remember, the plus sign creates a new note. So if I want to create a new note into my Up, which is my brokerage company with my business wife, or if I wanted to start over again and create a new notebook or find other notes, I would go back right here to the elephant head, and I would be here searching all my notebooks. Again, if I wanted to create a notebook, I would hit edit and new notebook. If I wanted to delete one, or if I wanted to take one, what they call stacking, so you can stack on top of each other, or this is also where you can share. So again, I wouldn't start um, I wouldn't start doing stacking or sharing until you start using Evernote. So again, start using Evernote. Just basic thing. Prospects. I had a prospects folder. Referrals maybe that I was getting. Somebody called me off a sign, and I would put them in prospects, and then I would move them to another point for once they became a client. So again, different things. And then I would go set them up on an automatic email list. So different things that you can do. You don't have to do any of these. It just is a starting point for all of you guys. Again, new listing. Here's some different things that maybe you put in. Okay. So just again, you don't have to do all of these. Maybe this will be, again, starting points. Any questions? So I want to make sure I answer everything. If I haven't, please Facebook me, email me. But this is, again, just starting. So start creating notebooks with any new client you have, just prospects, maybe any listings you have. And then I'm going to be posting Evernote with sellers, Evernote with buyers, and then how to use Evernote advanced features. And that one will go dig much deeper. The basic thing I wanted you to understand is how to organize notebooks and what to put under notes. Last thing I want to quickly show you, and kind of gives you a prelude to maybe what you may be facing coming up soon. So here's a listing that I'm going to put on the market soon. So this is a seller. And so as I was going around the listing, I was typing up their to-do list, which we always give clients to-do lists. But the old way is I would go home in an email format and normally type it up. Well, now I'm doing it in front of them and then emailing it to them right before I leave the house. So they have it instantaneously. They love it. I also have a record that I can quickly go back and say, have we done these things, kind of thing. Also, here's one initial phone call. And we're doing a 4 p.m. meeting that was on the phone. So when I'm on the phone with them, then I can go to my iPhone, iPad, or my calendar, and then I create an invite attendee. Here's another one. Untitled note is kind of the upgrades that they had throughout the house. One of the things that I would add to this is showing instructions. I would do a new note showing instructions. So when we get ready to put it on the market, so if I was sitting there talking with them, I would do a separate note, vacant, Supra, no, go and show. So again, this would be, and if you had a combo lock on the property, or they had a gate code, I can't tell you how many times I have had gate codes for clients, and I had them in the old-fashioned little notes here, and then I was like massively searching for them. So by having it here, I could have the gate code and not have to worry about it if an agent called, or maybe the showing company didn't give them instructions, but it's all under that note. So just ideas for you guys. Okay. If there's no other questions out there, I'm glad. Oh, okay. Any Evernoters out there with shared notebooks that illustrate different organization examples? So the good question is, Evernote is adding, so they have Salesforce that they're using as a tie-in. I have actually had quite a few associations started doing shared notebooks, and the smaller associations I've kind of counseled with doing shared notebooks. So the cool thing is you can just share a notebook to one, or you can share it to multiple people, and you can have checklists in there. Maybe, and I'm going to give Steve ideas for him particularly, is let's say you're at a board meeting and maybe one of the people, your secretary, is taking notes, depending on or who the admin is that's taking notes. So at the end of it, you can do a shared notebook. So instead of all of us in a board meeting taking notes, we know that they're going to do a shared notebook to us instead of sending us agendas and all that. Here's another way I've used it, and let's see if I can find it. And this may answer Steve's question. I was going to NAR, and so I was having tons of emails flooding me with all the committee meetings I had to, all the different agendas, um, all my different maybe talking points. And so this is great for committee events, whether you're at national level or even just local things that you're doing with committees. And I found this to be really helpful with just even small little committees, just onesie, twosies, three. So what I do is I put all of the stuff, like maybe we've had a conference call, da 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 da. Here's maybe the PAG notes that we had, that we've had. Then important reminders. Maybe this was an email message that came from NAR. So I had this all in one area. So versus having to go to my email and kind of sort through, I organized it all in Evernote. So when I went to conference, I had everything in one spot. I had my confirmation number, I had my housing, I had all of it here. The different things that I needed to attend with different agendas. So again, this worked for me. It may not work for you. So I will be creating one for going to San Francisco. Here's one for you. So Steve, this may be good for you guys is for any of you that are going to NAR, start putting all the different meeting agendas. You have everything in one spot. And then the cool thing is once I get there, I can just add to that meeting. So keep adding to that note on top of that, my notes while there kind of thing. And that's what's cool about this is I'm just adding on top of everybody else's notes that they've already emailed me, and I don't have to reinvent the wheel. Here's another one that for me, and this may work for Steve, is a lot of times you have a lot of ideas flying around with committees and who's going to do what. So I have it on here is who was doing what on our phone calls. And so when I got to the place to present, it was there and it was great for me. What Facebook groups do you recommend? For Evernote, I would definitely do the Evernote to follow. I would also, on Facebook, I would also do Raise the Bar. And I would also, and if you want more ideas about using technology in real estate, I would join the NAR YPN group because a lot of us share ideas like, oh, I used it this way, I did used it that way. And then there's other tech groups out there, but if you're kind of newer to doing this, that would be the beginning of it. Here's one that I still recommend a ton. It's called Official Real Estate Referral Group. And on the Official Real Estate Referral Group, I like it because then as soon as I get a referral, or if something comes through Facebook as a referral, I just go to Evernote. I copy and paste the link to my email to the Facebook with my link to my YouTube video. So I just go into Evernote and I can quickly respond to that referral on Official Real Estate Referral Group. Okay, so just ideas for you. Okay, any other questions? All right, no other questions maybe? All right, so if you don't have any other questions or you have follow-up questions, that's wonderful. Please, again, email me at amy@amysmytheharris.com, or you can also Facebook message me. So hopefully I've answered any questions you may have. And if I haven't, then please let me know. Thanks so much for attending, and I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks, and have a fantastic day.